For those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Montoya Smith, aka the Black Socrates. I'm your host of the most powerful hour on the radio, Mental Dialogue, where all I ask is that you think, every Sunday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Glance Radio. I will reiterate that after I get this off my mind, but as Black Socrates, what I have on my mind this evening, I just wanted to touch upon the idea that I know there are a lot of African Americans out there who do not consider America as their own. And what I mean by that is it's during holidays like Memorial Day and the 4th of July and things of that nature that this point that I'm going to make hits me, is when I hear, matter of fact, we did a show yesterday on Would You Die for America? Like, that was our discussion question yesterday on the show. And so the reason I brought that question up is because I run into a lot of blacks or African Americans, I interchange them, that actually don't consider themselves as part of America. If you're familiar with the Black nationalist movement, that kind of started with Marcus Garvey at the turn of the century, relatively at the turn of the century, that has continued to grow, and there's still plenty of people who are. Their take is, we never had a country because we were brought here not under a lot of duress, and brought here under slavery, just to be frank about it. And so while I understand that sentiment, I think it's a little misguided personally. And the reason I say that is because I think it's a mistake to not take ownership of a country. Not only did we help to build, but America would absolutely not be America without its African American community. And I don't speak on this to separate us as much as I want to be a part of the whole melting pot of America. And I think African Americans have done themselves a grave disservice not to sit at the table of brotherhood. Now, granted, the history of this country has been that they didn't want us at the table of brotherhood, so I get that. But there are a lot of people who still hold on to that history and can't move forward and see this America as our own. So the last thing that they would ever do is want to step up and fight for this country. Now, let me tell a personal story very quickly. Now, you're talking to someone who in his junior year in high school, who sat around with a group of 3 other friends that they were all considering going into the military. I was like, absolutely not. I'll go to Canada first before I actually go even into the military. Let's much think about dying for this country. And I was actually a kind of radical kid at that point in my life. And so understand that I've moved full circle when it comes into putting holidays like Memorial Day in perspective. And so I actually saw a Facebook post where the brother online was just suggesting that we should remember the freedom fighters, the Malcolm X's of the world, and all the other black nationalists that played a role or still fighting that battle against America, as they often refer to America, because I actually put the question up and a few of them responded and said, this country is, I've never had a country. And so to just go directly into that, as I said, we understand that we helped build this country, even though we were brought here not of our own will, brought here under the chains of slavery, and actually have spent a lot of years fighting for opportunity to sit at the table, the tablehood of the table of brotherhood is what I mean to say. And so with that said, I not only want to sit at the table and have a plate, I want to eat what everybody else is eating. And I know that there's no opportunity for us as African Americans to look at America as something other than our own. I say that because if something's not yours, are you really going to take care of it? Are you really going to work to actually improve something that's not yours? And the other question I always ask is, where are you going to go? I don't say that as though there's no other countries to live in that they wouldn't be just as beautiful as America. And I do say beautiful because despite that history, we literally have opportunity and privileges that have been afforded to us by the service men and women who have given their lives to give us as African Americans an opportunity to fully be a part of this country. And I think we do them a grave disservice not to recognize that history. Because whereas today, because a lot of us are removed, or as we are currently having a war that's not shown in the media, strictly because of the peace movement coming out of the 60s, you don't see the media put the coverage that you may have seen in the past, where you actually saw the atrocities of war, which happened in Vietnam, and it kind of turned America away from war in the sense of this is what war is all about. And so, during Vietnam, the draft was enacted, so due to conscription, and with the Black Power movement all being at the same time, it was just this huge dividing point of whether we should be in the war, whether we should not, the peace movement, the Black Power movement. So we never got back our capacity for, we're fighting for this big cause like you may have had in World War II and World War I and all the different issues historically for the creation of this country. But considering not only was the first blood spilt by an African American for the independence of this country, but we've been in every war outside of the Mexican war with the Mexican American War. We've been a part of every war. And why did these members actually stand up for a country that treated them as less than second-class citizens in most cases, and then throughout this century or this past century as second-class citizens, like I say, at best? So I do understand the sentiment in our community where people say, look, this has never really been our country. They don't want us. And so, but it's not fair in 2013 when you consider that the brothers and sisters before us that gave their lives for our opportunity that we now enjoy, because this is an opportunity that a lot of times I feel African Americans don't see. I see immigrants of all ethnicities, including different Africans from different African countries, come here and see a lot of success because they still see America somewhat as the land of milk, the proverbial milk and honey. It's a land of opportunity. But here as African Americans, we've actually been blinded from the opportunity in some cases that exists before us of what we can and the power that we could obtain. Because as I said, I want to sit at the table of brotherhood with equal opportunity. That's what we're still fighting for, but you're not going to fight for that if this country is not your own. And then how do we actually pay tribute to those who actually gave us this opportunity, as I keep saying? Because what happens is when those brothers were stepping up, for example, with in World War I, the African Americans that signed up for the military, they had this concept of a 2V victory. What did that mean? Victory abroad and victory at home. That's what they had hoped to accomplish by showing America we're going to step up and fight, because America didn't believe that a Negro would even be willing, or even though we had shown our bravery in every war up until this point. I remember reading General Pershing, the commander of the American Expeditionary Force, actually making comments of not giving too much praise to the African American soldiers who had joined at that time, because they didn't want to give that praise in front of whites, but even secretly admitting that we had a capacity for the hard jobs and were brave. And so we showed our bravery throughout this time, but America didn't believe, blacks were given that stigma of being scary and things of that nature. But that was all falsehoods that our brothers and sisters in the armed services fought to turn around, to where in 1948, Harry S. Truman offered an executive order that desegregated the military. The military desegregated before in 1948, before we had integration come or get enforced after the civil rights movement. The military was ahead in that arena, because like I tell people all the time, if the bullets flying, you don't care who comes save you if you wounded. You don't care what color. You don't care anything other than get me out of here. So that broke down a lot of barriers, and the military started that. So as much as we may want to remember the freedom fighters and say, I don't care about this country, you got to understand that the brothers and sisters who went into the armed forces and died to give us this opportunity have played a role for you to feel the way that you do. Military members often say, I don't believe as you do, but I will fight for your right to say what you have to say, because dissension is as American as apple pie. So I don't mind brothers critiquing and criticizing America to try to get to the place at that table of brotherhood with equal footing as I'm still shooting for. But I know that cannot take place if we don't take ownership of this country as our own. As I said, not only did we help to build it, but we've shared our blood on the victory abroad. Now it's time to get that victory at home. And the only way we do that is to take ownership and become a part of the American system. And for anybody out there who continues to believe that America would never allow us that opportunity, we're continuing to make progress. And you know, not only with Barack Obama as the first black president, and of course for those who are not a part of America, they'll dismiss that and say, well, he's half white, and the so-called conspiracy theory come out of he was placed into the presidency without coming up with an effective reason why, considering what was going on. You can always backtrack from the conspiracy, and I don't want to make this first time speaking to you on YouTube too long, so we'll get into some of the conspiracy theories here in the future on Mental Dialogue. But I just want to pay honor and tribute to the brothers and sisters who have given their lives for me to have the freedom to do what I'm doing right now in this technological age, being able to get on YouTube and express my opinions and just bring it to you. If you like what you're hearing or disagree with me, please tune in Sunday nights on Mental Dialogue, 7 to 8 p.m. on glassradio.com, where all I ask is that you think.